All right. Here we go.
Okay. All right. I'd like to share a reflection. And it says that a nation should not be judged by how it treats its highest citizens, but its lowest ones. And this is a quote by Nelson Mandela. And when we look at the issue of affordable housing here in Nashville, sometimes the system forgets the lowest citizens, those that are struggling to afford housing. So, all right, Mike.
All right, let's see. I get to talk about the fundraising banquet that we had July 21st. Now, I know a number of you all were there, so I'm going to say a couple of words about it, and then you go ahead and be ready to add in something. Since it was a fundraising banquet, perhaps a good thing to report on is how much funds we raised. We raised about $60,000. We cleared about $60,000. We raised much more than that, but we had expenses, of course, with the food and the venue and everything like that. But yeah, that is the best that we've ever done in terms. Yes, I'm with you. Thank you.
Applaud the committee.
I was about to say
Yes,
we had a great committee, and there was a fireball or two on this committee. Let's see, one of them was named Paulette Coleman.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yay, Paulette. She really did. She, I wouldn't be too surprised if there are a number of bank people and housing people that have sore arms, because Paulette bent the arms behind them to say, you've got to make a contribution here.
Thank you.
Assistant in her special way.
Yeah. Anyway, we raised good money. We had about 375 people there. We sold more tickets than that, but there were some people that couldn't come at the last minute. So it was just, for me, it was just a very wonderful time together. And I was able to record like about a minute of the music and of our speaker when they kind of got going together. I don't know if some of you all that were there remember that. I recorded about a minute of it, and there's, if you want, there's a link in the chat where you can look at it later. It was just a really good time. And now that I've babbled away, anybody else want to say something about the fundraising banquet?
Just that the atmosphere was one of, festivities and I think happiness that people were coming together. Mm-hmm. The crowd was diverse. We had people from walks of life that we've not had before. Mm-hmm. Elected officials, maybe prospective elected officials. We had diverse in terms of age, gender and race. And so I thought that all that was very positive and representative of the city.
I had a couple of people that were kind of brand new to NOAA who attended that. And they said, they were just impressed by the diversity of folks that were there. We had synagogues, we had Christian churches, Unitarian congregations, we had Jewish folks. Anyway, it was a great, had labor unions. It was a great time together. So unless somebody else has something else to add.
Don't forget the music by one of my choir members.
The music was outstanding. I think Paulette said, we probably should have just shoved the tables and chairs back and let people get up and dance, because that's
No, that was Ray.
Is that right?
Okay.
I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who helped and contributed. And it's not too early to start planning for 2022. My goal was to raise 100,000 gross but we really need to have a goal of 100,000 net. But it takes a lot of work. And one of the things I learned is you never know who's going to respond. So 2 of our largest sponsorships came because I sent letters to people who were on the mayor's affordable housing task force. And so we just have to ask and go from there. And thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Yes, I see Cheryl Major has joined us, and I know she worked really hard on it too. I hesitate to call names, but I know Paulette and Cheryl especially worked real hard on it.
Yes.
Mhm.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Cheryl.
No, we're about.
Well, you're welcome. I'm
mile-
out of town and listening, so I just want to let you know I am on the call,
Mile
but
from
I
the
am not
house.
able to contribute. But thank you all. Okay.
Okay, if you want to,
All right. Well, it looks like the next thing is talking about the October annual meeting. And, you know, Noah, every year we have an annual meeting in October, and that's a great time for us to be able to outline the key issues that we're working on and to get commitments from various political figures, to get commitments from the mayor, from the school board, director of schools, from whoever it is that we feel like are the decision makers that we need commitments from to move our agendas forward. And I was actually speaking to a Sunday school class this morning, and I said something about, you know, Noah is political in one sense, but we don't endorse candidates. Instead, we get them to endorse us. We want all the candidates, we want the elected officials to endorse our platform, our issues, because it's what's important to our member groups. So that's, I'm looking at the questions on the agenda here. We got, what do we want to tell invited officials? What questions do we want to ask? And then we have also started talking about this at our August 9th membership meeting when we did the breakouts. So we may want to go over what people shared at that time. And then if there are things that you all want to add today, and then the very last couple of things here are we want to establish our priorities for our task force, and then get a couple of people, 2 or 3 people to volunteer to help shape our priorities for that annual meeting. Now, Shirley and Kay, we didn't say who was going to go through this. So that's why I jumped in and did it, because there was a long silence there.
Okay. You know, going back, and I don't have the notes from our, you know, our monthly meeting, you know, about, because this question came up in our discussion, but, and I want to throw this out to everybody. What do we want to tell invited officials? And I guess first, before, what do we want to tell invited officials? Who are some of the invited officials we want to attend this October meeting?
Shirley, if you'd like, I'm happy to share what people said. Give me a second.
I think I've got it up, okay, if it's helpful. Unless you're ready to.
I got it now.
Before we go to what people said, do we want to answer Shirley's question, or we want to hear what people said first?
Shirley, what would you like?
Let's see what people said at the monthly meeting, and
Okay.
then we can add on to the list.
Okay.
Mhm.
So the first comment was from Jerry, who said we should ask the mayor to do what we've asked for over and over, meaning we want dedicated $30 million a year in the Barnes Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and to press for that, and to let him know the urgency that what we're in is very similar to climate change, and there could come a time when building enough will be impossible. Shirley wanted to remind him that lack of affordable housing is hurting the people of our city. And she would ask the mayor, what is your opinion about this and the pressure that our Nashvilleians are under? Avi and Anton pressed or emphasized that we should ask the mayor what makes for an inclusive neighborhood in our city, and then ask the mayor specifically, what does this mean to you, living side by side, rich and poor, so that kids get a broader experience? And then ask him to describe that specifically on the spot. Also, Avi and Anton wanted him to be specific about his vision for the East Bank. Let's see.
I've got it up on the screen too. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Margaret would ask him about laws, what he could do to press for laws at the state level that give more power to renters. And right now the laws are skewed towards favoring landlords. Regina would ask that, or let him know that many neighborhoods don't have enough, they're not walkable or safe because they don't have sidewalks, and she'd ask him what he'd do about that. And Nancy would ask him, where are the workers in our city going to be living, because more and more can't afford housing that's affordable. And Paulette would ask him about what she would let him know that we are still lacking an impactful community strategy, that it feels like, as some people have said, you know, a ship without a rudder. And she would want to know, what is the time frame for the creation of a community strategy to be done? Also, what are any programs, new programs that are being created or developed to help our homeless population? And then Avi and Anton both said, will you go back to the state, as I think he promised this in his campaign, and recruit others with you from the surrounding areas to press for the repeal of the inclusionary zoning law that they passed a few years back, which repealed what we did at the state level.
Okay, now we're ready for if anyone else would like to add to the list.
Okay, I watched, oh, hold on. I'm not mute, am I? I watched the affordable housing, the council's affordable housing committee meeting this past week, and also watched the East Bank Stadium Committee meeting. And especially with the way they're dealing with homeless, they're really kind of floundering. So And I was going to ask Shirley and Kay, I got documents from Jim Schulman because after I watched it, I thought, I'm not sure what I heard. Yeah. And so I've got these documents trying to explain. And of course, several people kept saying they were kind of just slipshod, plans. They weren't well thought out. But again, whenever you have homeless, when you have places reserved for the homeless, that takes places away from people to buy housing too. I mean, they're really kind of a little bit both reaching for the same thing. Does that make any sense? It's the same land, it's the same structures.
Well, the mayor's office has made a $50 million request in ARP funding, which is American Rescue Plan funds,
Yeah.
one-time funds that have to be used up, I think, by the end of 2024. $50 million to be used for programs to help the homeless.
Yeah.
And it's broken down into 25 million for very, very low interest loans to developers, either for-profit or nonprofit, that would agree to include units for people who have either no income or up to 30% of area median income.
So that would include the homeless?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Because and the way they would be identified is through a system that's used here in Nashville called the homeless.
The entry system.
Yeah, coordinated entry system.
Coordinated entry, yeah.
Mhm.
And then of the other monies, there's a set aside a group of monies that would be used to provide incentives to landlords that already have properties, and these would be financial incentives to house people who are homeless or formerly homeless. Along with that, there's, I think it's 7 or 8 million that would be used to provide what we call support services, which could include physical and mental health services, case management, as Shirley tells us, social workers, to help the people become stable and stay stable.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
I was just going to suggest that it's easy for us to get lost in some of these specific programs and everything. So I was just going to suggest, Shirley and Kate, maybe we could just make a list of, kind of go around the circle here and ask people, what are the key things that you think we ought to be pressing either the mayor or some other decision makers about? So that everybody gets a chance to put something forward, and that may help us bubble up some of the things. It may help us see where there's a lot of agreement.
Yeah, and where there's a gap. So we don't know. We know, Mike, if you can confirm this, that the mayor will attend the October annual meeting. Is that confirmed?
That is not confirmed. We've got an October 16th as the tentative date, but I'm waiting to hear back from, I've contacted his office 3 times, I think. And so I'm trying to get a yes or a no on that date.
Okay. So assuming the mayor will be there, but we don't yet have a confirmed list of other public officials that would
No,
may attend.
The different task forces are coming up with them now. That's part of the reason for this meeting today, is to say, are there particular other decision makers that you're interested in having? And especially, what is it you want to have asked? Whether it's asked of Mayor Cooper or asked of somebody else. The way that we actually started this at that previous meeting, when in the breakout. I'm sorry. the way we started this conversation in the breakout groups at the membership meeting was just to say, what's hurting you, your family, your congregation or group, or your community? And it was about, it could be about housing, it could be about other things. So is there anything that people want to add? Is that okay to just see if there's anything people want to add to that list?
Yeah,
Juanita,
Juanita put a good one in the chat, Shirley.
Yes, she did.
What did she say? I
Okay.
didn't see it, I'm sorry.
Okay, she said, on behalf of teacher renters, could we ask about programs that would offer teacher housing subsidies? We are experiencing an unprecedented shortage, which is true.
That's a good idea.
Big article in the paper about teachers leaving right and left.
And I just experience it. I've been teaching for a while, but I still rent. And right now renting is probably the best option if you haven't purchased a home already. But, to see a 35% increase in rent is really, it's a hard, it's a very hard decision because, either way it goes, you're either going to have to move, which is going to be expensive, or you're going to have to move and you're going to have to move outside the city, which then makes working in this city less attractive, because, if we go outside of Nashville, you're not necessarily making the same kind of wage. So I don't want to drive into Nashville to spend my money, gas money and things like that. So just anything that we could offer teachers to get them to stay in the community and be a part of the community of the students that they teach would be awesome.
Yeah,
I think that plus police and fire department people. I know the police, we've got a shortage. I don't know about the fire department.
so really housing subsidies for
Public,
crucial workers like our
Public
teachers
service workers, yeah.
and police and firefighters, first responders, maybe we put it that way.
I've often heard that neighborhoods are safer if you've got your teachers, your fire people, and your fire department, your police living in the neighborhood.
I'd also like to add the support staff. You remember we had some great testimony from a couple of folks who are support staff at Metro schools, and it's just really hurting them, the high housing costs.
Another group too, the 911 operators is another, I can't think of that department right now.
I think it's emergency communications, but.
Right.
Great.
And then there's another suggestion in the chat. I don't know who it's from, Shirley. Kristen,
yeah. With so many homes bought by investors, what policies can be put in place to level the playing field for Nashville residents to buy homes? That's a good one.
Oh, that's good.
I'm
thinking especially out of town investors. I don't know why I feel.
I'm with you, Pat. Oh.
I would just also, I think all of the questions are good. I would also like some information about the division of housing. And I think Carlene put something in the chat about that. What is their game plan for addressing all of these issues and plans? Representatives from that department, either Angie or someone, is somebody I'd like to have present. They don't necessarily have to present or anything. And then of course, I keep going back to if we don't have a comprehensive community economic development plan, we'll always just be responding to these specific situations, whether it's East Bank, whether it's the soccer stadium, whether it's, on and on and on. So that to me is very, very important. I think I'm seeing multiple levels of questions. One that has to do with how it impacts people personally and or individually, or by a category of work. And then I'm seeing the broader, more comprehensive policy and strategy kinds of questions and issues.
Paulette, are you aware of other cities that have what you're talking about?
Yeah, and there's not 100% way, but at least Boston has some elements of it that I'm aware of, and there are others that are not coming to mind right now. But it looks at economic development, and it also includes how it impacts homelessness, and they make decisions about welcoming new companies or investors or whatever based on what the context will. They do an analysis of what that group's coming in will mean.
Well, you're right. It's impossible to quickly judge any new development idea without a game plan that you judge it by. You absolutely need it. Is that available to read?
No, we don't have that here in Nashville.
No,
No,
but
I'm
he's
talking
talking about
about-
in other cities.
Yeah.
I've contacted the Harvard Joint Center for Housing, and I contacted the affordable housing, I'm going to say director, chief, whatever, for Massachusetts. And I've been looking at articles, and Courtney Pogue, who is, I don't know if he's gone or not, who is the outgoing community economic development director, had some of those and had 9 components that needed to be in any kind of economic development plan that included workforce, housing, many things. So, and I have not talked with him because I have to find out if he's still here or not. But whatever I can find, I can post it or let people know what it is.
That would be wonderful, because if we were aware of ideas that we haven't thought of yet, but that other cities have, then we would have something to ask the mayor for.
Yes.
And give him ideas that maybe he doesn't have.
Would it be okay to go around and see if anybody else has something?
Hey, Mike,
Yes, sir.
I have one question. Well, at the membership meeting, I was with the educational task force. Well, I had some concerns about inclusionary zoning. And I'm wondering some of the questions that were asked in this task force breakout about what America do. And I'm just curious, is it possible for a lawsuit from the city and other cities who have been preempted in issues like inclusionary zoning or local hire, but especially inclusionary zoning?
Yeah.
If the mayor's gonna go, it has to be something strong to go on, a lawsuit or something that says, since we voted for it. I would like to know, is there a possibility for a lawsuit?
My general impression, I'm not an expert on that. Paulette or Kay or someone may have more than I do, but my understanding is that the state has the power to do that. Now, there may be some wrinkles that there can be a lawsuit. I would love to do anything we can to get that back. For anybody who doesn't know, that inclusionary zoning just means that if I'm a developer building this many units, that many ought to be affordable. There ought to be a requirement.
But that's a possibility. I would like to ask the mayor if that is a possibility for a lawsuit, since we voted on it. I don't know if that's the case or not, but it appeared that it would be.
We don't have any.
It appears that way, and preemption, as it's called, it's really, some of us call it state overreach, is a trend across the nation. And this is just replicating one example of what's happened in other states. So there has been this trend of state legislatures overruling what local communities want to do in their own communities. I guess we could look and see it in other states. I do have some colleagues that work at the national level on this, and ask if there have been lawsuits in other states brought over this issue, but it is a national issue, Reverend Thompson.
I had one other thing I'd like to add to this that a couple of us have talked about. did y'all see in the newspaper where there were unscrupulous developers are sometimes using the codes department to pressure senior homeowners to move out? Did y'all see that? It's like,
Yes, I saw that.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
that to me, I mean, that really made me angry. Senior homeowners have enough trouble without some blooming developer trying to push them out of the neighborhood so they can make a quick buck. And they're using the codes department.
Code snitching, right.
Yeah. So
Just one.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Paulette. All right.
While we're waiting for her, I'd like to see somebody who's heavily involved in the East Bank
Mm-hmm.
from in a city, government perspective, not, I know there's the East Bank Stadium Committee, the council, East Bank, I don't know who's from the government who's heavily involved in that.
Well, that's council members. So the mayor's own office itself is the key entity that's engaged with the Titans ownership group and NFL and the state. And I don't know which staff members within his office are involved, but it's within his office.
Yeah, but I'm not thinking just that. I'm thinking the whole East Bank. Somebody who's got their fingers on the pulse of what's being proposed for the entire East Bank.
I got a notice of an open house for the East Bank plans. Are we going to have representatives there to find out what's discussed there?
When is it, Carlene?
I'll have to pull that up. I'm not sure. I don't have it memorized.
It's September the 24th or 25th. It's a community meeting
Right.
that's supposed to happen.
There are a couple of different ones, I think, but I think it would be good for us to find out about it. But I think the Metro Planning Department is mainly concerned with roads and sewers and that kind of thing, how that's going to be developed. But it certainly wouldn't hurt us to have people there. There might be other things going too.
Something I think in the title about housing.
Oh, really? Okay.
I believe so. Something led me to think that it was going to talk.
All right.
Yeah, because the reason you were contacted was because you attended the fish fry. You're on a list of people to be contacted regarding this community meeting that's going to be held in late September.
Okay, I attended the fish fry. I did not get.
You should get a call or somebody will reach out to you. Your name's on the list. I saw it, Pat.
Okay.
This is not the Metro doing it. This is actually Stand Up Nashville, NOAA, Equity Alliance, and a group of us doing it.
Yeah, but there's no government official tied to that community outreach, Pat.
Okay, no, I'm still just trying to think who in the governor's office, I mean, the mayor's office has got their finger on all this, the East Bank.
Well, according to our agenda, we need to be listing these things and then setting priorities. So is it okay to see if anybody else, I see Lynn hasn't spoken and I don't think Ann has. I always want to make sure everybody gets a shot at speaking. Mercedes hasn't. Lethea?
Benny Overton put in the chat, what is the city willing to do to support and or encourage the faith community efforts to develop affordable housing?
Oh, okay.
I just patched it in here. I've been trying to get most of the chat things and stick them on this list. Are there any of the rest of you all that have not spoken yet that want a turn at saying one of the things that is important to you?
This is Lynn. I have a point to make. I'm not sure how relevant it is or not, but other people have been talking about the problem of state law preempting local decisions. And the thing that really keeps me up at night is the proposed charter schools that Nashville may have shoved down its throat by Governor Lee and Hillsdale College. Hillsdale College, those people just scare me to death. It seems to be one of the most insidious, highly conservative organizations, very well funded, very well backed. And I'm afraid that what they're going to be doing is basically creating a very conservative agenda for school children and indoctrinating them in very insidious ways. And apparently there's a state commit. I'm not on the schools task force of NOAA, so excuse my ignorance, but apparently there's a state board that if the local school boards reject the Hillsdale College charter schools, there's this state commission, all of whom have been appointed by Governor Lee, that will put Hillsdale in whether we want them or not. And that's a very big concern to me. I don't know if the schools task force has been concerned about that or not, but I'm curious if they are.
Okay, we've got it down here. Thank you.
Yeah, I think there are many people that share your same views, Lynn.
Okay.
This is Jim Powers, and Angie Hubbard has written a lot in the paper about her plans for the mayor's office on housing. And I think inviting her to come and speak about her plans would be very, very useful. And some of the specific questions that we started with at the beginning of our conference call could be addressed to her.
All right, I could possibly invite her. There we go. Thank you.
I'm ready for my comment, Mike.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I think the comment that was just made is a good one in terms of maybe focusing on some of the first things that folks came up with, because they were the most kind of on point in terms of housing and addressing needs in as comprehensive a way as possible. Lynn, I sure agree with you on everything you just said about the charter school effort, but I think that kind of moves us away from a real focus, unfortunately. And so I guess my comments are kind of general, but I think you've got to have 2 or 3 focal points, no more. And I'd like to point out that there are several statewide groups, including the Tennessee Municipal League, that represent the cities and that really go in and advocate on things like the state preempting various local government responsibilities. So at some point, some communication with a group like the Tennessee Municipal League might give us more of a sense of how we could be helpful when those bills are filed in trying to contact legislators or something. But I don't see a way for us to be directly involved in trying to lobby against those bills. So that's it for me.
All right, thank you. Does anybody else have one that you want to get up here? We do need to set some priorities, but I want to make sure everyone had a chance first.
And put them into categories. I think that's, again, which things are related to each other.
All right, well, help me out here then. What?
I know.
Well, under housing supply, or under maybe housing for essential workers.
Yeah, come under.
So just put that there. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
And I would say housing assistance, because it gets into subsidies. There you go. Housing assistance, which could mean any number of different things, not just building it, but it could be providing stipends for teachers and essential workers to help them cover the cost of rents and mortgages.
And one thing we need to be careful of I believe in essential workers, but you have so many poor people who do not have a place to live. So we have to be careful. We just don't.
Yeah.
Essential workers.
Mhm.
Well, you're really talking about these different levels. You know, you've got the below 30% and the teachers and probably, I don't know, 60 to 80%, 60 to 100. I don't know where they lie, but.
Well, we could say for housing assistance for essentials workers and those with the greatest needs.
Yes, okay, that would include, because if we didn't include that, first thing they would say, well, NOAA's not concerned about us.
Right. So those with the greatest need would cover it.
And that would include low income
Yes.
and also homeless.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be wonderful to have a goal that anyone who wanted housing would be able to get housing.
Yeah, yeah.
Not every homeless person, wants that.
But there would be a pathway.
Yeah, there'd be a pathway that, depending on what your circumstances are, we've got a pathway laid out and planned for you.
Yeah.
Sounds like that might be a part of like this comprehensive development plan.
Yeah.
I mean, does that sound right?
And Angie, I don't know where Angie's name is, but she speaks to this issue. She calls it the housing continuum, where you lay out a plan so that you work towards making housing opportunities available for people who are at different places along the continuum, from those who are sleeping in encampments and maybe don't have any income, up to those who have a little income, like our service workers, up through our teachers and first responders, and all the way through our seniors who are struggling with housing affordability. So she uses that phrase, housing continuum, but it's a pathway.
Yeah, I like that word, a pathway.
I like pathway also, because then if we don't put pathway in, then we get back to the general, everybody needs housing.
Yeah.
And so we have to make sure that everybody gets housing, but that there's certain pathways that we can take. And I also would like to see if there's a timeline, because I see these things, but then it feels like, well, how much time would this take? And I know that, you've got to consider and you've got to do budgets, but that could take forever. So it would be really great to ask for timelines.
Yes.
That should be part of the plan, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not the first time we've asked for it either.
No.
Okay.
It's going to have a timeline. You need to specify the number of units you're seeking.
Yeah.
When we raise these questions, because we've been asking for these things for years, it's a little bit discouraging, but I know we have to persevere.
We do, and this city is not slowing down. And I think part of the issue is that the mayor and the council and everybody has got, 10 things up in the air at the same time, try to accommodate this growth. But somewhere in there, you have to understand and acknowledge the likelihood that if you don't develop a plan with timelines and with specific goals for critical issues, it's going to catch up with you, and then you're just in all kinds of hurt. So, I mean, right now, I'd love to see more about this community development plan, and if that's as good as it sounds like it could be, demand that our city make one. We need a comprehensive housing plan with timeline, number of units, monies, where it's going to come from, all of that. And we need something on homeless that's similar to that.
I think economic and community development, by their very nature, include housing. And the way our government is set up here in Metro, it's siloed. And so they're not thought about at the same time. And I think that's what Paulette is getting to, and where we do have opportunity to press on this issue of a comprehensive economic and community development plan that alongside a comprehensive housing plan for our city. In other, I don't want to say too much, but we do not have an independent, separate department of economic development. We have an office that sits under the mayor's office in administration. And so there's revolving doors there. Other cities have separate departments of economic and community development. So I think pressing to, maybe we can work on wordsmithing this with your help and Paulette's help to really press on this issue, Jerry, of a comprehensive long-term community and economic development plan at the same time alongside the housing plan.
Yeah.
I'm a backup timekeeper. We're 3 minutes over for this.
Yeah,
section.
I just noticed that, so we have to decide.
Well, what I was is it okay for us to extend this section just a little couple of minutes so we can get some priorities? Because if you got 10 things here, we can't do all 10.
Can we, I think a plan is the most important thing. And we've been asking for that, right? For a while?
8 years.
Okay. And to me, until we have a plan, it is just all kind of hodgepodge.
All right.
Now that he's got people in place, the leaders specifically, there's no point waiting. There's no reason to wait.
Well, we don't, isn't the guy who was economic development, isn't he the guy, Kay, who came and left?
Yep.
Yep, okay. Pogue, I think his name was.
Courtney. Yep.
And then also homeless, they don't have one there yet.
No, the homeless, the homeless impact division is a skeleton.
Yeah, so we don't have the people in place right now.
Not for those things, nope. But we do have a division of housing within the planning department,
right? That
has 5 staff members and is going to be hiring more.
Okay.
And that's Angie Hubbard's office,
Yeah.
right? Would it be okay to just go down the list and everybody tell us like what 2 or 3 things seem the most important to you? Is that a good way to do it, or is there a better way?
Well, I've told you mine, and that's one I said planning.
All right, so Pat said planning. All right. Jerry, how about you?
I agree with Pat that it begins with a comprehensive plan.
All right, well, now make sure you're looking at all these other things here too.
I have, and
all right.
It would be hard to pick out of all those other things, a single thing that's more important than all the rest. But one thing that can treat them all and consider them all is a plan.
Yes.
All right. Well, who's next? Kay, what do you have, 2 or 3? Hello, Kay? Don't you love Zoom? Paulette, do you have 2 or 3 of these you want to vote for?
I'm not prepared to vote right now, and I'm not sure that this is the best strategy. I was hoping that a group of people or the staff could take the 10 and prioritize them and send them back to us. But so
we can certainly do it that way. What do you all want to do?
I think, well, we talked about having 2 or 3 volunteers take the list and distill it down into priorities. I know one of the pressing, well, we'll really be impressed with the pressures on our teachers and support staff around housing, and but that could be part of, it could be part of the plan, but it could be a short-term initiative that gets up and running without, you know, a lot of effort, because it's not something new. It's something that's already been done before.
I like that concept of the plan because it's action. But
Yeah.
I think when we have the plan and action, I think we should list maybe 2 or 3 things under it.
Okay.
Would help us prioritize, but it has to, I don't want to just ask questions if there's no action. But I believe the plan is an action method. And then list the 2 or 3 ones that we prioritize under that.
Yeah, kind of include what the plan should include.
Yes, because when we ask a question, we should also have a plan also. We just don't want to leave it up to the mayor.
No, that includes these things.
Yes, we want to offer what we think will be the action to take to remedy
Yes.
lack of affordable housing here. So we want to make a suggestion. We just want to say, you go and do it, Mayor.
Right. You're exactly right. We need to be specific that with the actions within the plan that we want to see happen within a specific time frame.
Time frame, yes.
Right. So Jerry, we have a housing division now. We got the people.
All right. So are we following Paulette's suggestion of getting a small committee of folks to work with the staff and prioritizing these and putting them together? Is that what we're doing?
I like that idea.
I do too.
I think it's important to send them back out though to the.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that really has already helped me to start picturing a plan and what I want in it. You know, that's good. That helps me pick what I think are important things that should be in it.
All right. So do we need 2 or 3 people to work with us on that? Is that what we're looking for?
Yeah. We need 3 people that would raise your hand to work on this. It's a short-term job. It's really short-term because the meeting's in October.
Oh, yeah, what would be the deadline?
What is this? I'd like to say, I think we could come up with something by the end of the week, actually. I mean, what we're talking about is not something incredibly complex. We're just needing some priorities to start working on.
Just get together and by Zoom or something and distill this down into something in the form of a specific request around the plan and specific activities that we want to see happen within a specific time frame around that. Is that the concept, Jerry?
Yeah.
That is the concept.
I know.
Mike, how does this differ from the group that's coming together Tuesday afternoon? Brian is.
That's looking at the whole thing from all the task force angles. So for example, there's representatives from this task force on that group. But
Okay.
you're the ones, this is the group that's been spending the most time thinking about affordable housing. So it kind of made sense for you all to weigh in on it.
Oh, Paulette, don't you have, I mean, I know everybody asks you to do everything, but don't you have a background in city planning?
Yes.
Yes.
That's what I thought. Which means you would know a little more about how to go about it, maybe?
Well, I think what we're looking for here is just what are some of our priorities, right?
Yeah.
And it would be helpful, like Paulette just suggested, she dropped in the chat some things about okay, we're gonna need a strategy and a plan with action or means for executing. So
Yeah.
she's got some things there, but we've got to prioritize some of these things. Like, for instance, we mentioned about seniors getting roughed up by the codes department. Okay, well, where does that fit, you know, in all this? We mentioned the thing about teachers and about essential workers, you know, where does that fit in all this? So I think we do need to have some specifics, don't we? And not just a very general plan.
I can do it.
Okay.
All right, I got Jerry. Who else? Does anybody really want to work with us on this? All right, I got
Lynn,
I have a question. I'm looking at this excellent, you can't see it with, anyway, the thing that was handed out a few meetings ago. Noah's work on affordable housing in the Metro budget, April to June 2022, what Noah wanted, what we won, and unanticipated wins. Might that be a framework for some of the things we're asking about? You know, we got these unanticipated wins, and maybe we want to follow up on some of that. I'm just guessing, but it just, you know, I know we're searching for a structure and a framework for what we ask, and maybe this could be of use, is all I'm saying.
Well, you know, Lynn, you know, using that and what we've come up with today, and at the monthly meeting, maybe we can narrow this down, and Jerry, your committee could narrow, you know, it down to the goals and objectives and, you know, responsible persons to get it done.
well, I think what we want is, we want to come up with a structured message to tell to the mayor and Angie Hubbard and whoever else on October the 16th, what we want to see, and ask them for specific commitments around that. Am I right about that? Is that it?
I think so.
So
Yeah.
it's just going to take a conversation. It won't take long, I don't think, to distill this down into a message that it has enough specificity in it that we can get real commitments that we feel confident in from, or work to get those from people on the 15th or on the 16th. I think that's what we're trying to achieve.
And going back to just quickly what Lynn mentioned, we didn't get everything we wanted in terms of like the Barnes Fund. And so we need to keep that in mind as we're setting these priorities.
Yes, yeah.
So I've got Jerry and Lynn. Is anybody else that would like to work with us on this?
Is somebody gonna head it up from the office?
I can work with Jerry and Lynn.
Well, I'm wanting to work on this.
Okay.
I'm not sure Lynn actually, did you volunteer?
Lynn, did you volunteer, or you were just trying to get our attention?
Or did we just?
Was volunteered.
She was volunteered.
Voluntold.
But I was too embarrassed to say I wouldn't do it.
Oh, well, no, that's okay. You were just trying to get our attention. We don't have, we can take your name off. It's totally okay.
Well, I don't think I'm the most knowledgeable person, only having been back on the task force, you know, for such a short time.
I was wondering,
Paulette say that she really wants to do it. That's what I heard.
Yes, Paulette. It would just take an hour, Paulette.
Could I sit in? I don't have any expertise, but I would love to just sit in and understand the process.
Yes.
I would love to have Juanita in on this. The voice of a teacher would be really helpful.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll be on that committee too.
All right. Well, is it okay if, like, I send out a doodle to you folks? Because we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people plus me.
Yeah.
Is that the best thing, a doodle? Do we want to meet in person or Zoom, or what are we doing?
Zoom.
Zoom.
All right.
Zoom.
Just checking. You don't want to see if I've got bad breath or something, right?
Are we
Okay,
going to zoom through the next couple of items or
I hope so.
skip them or?
Okay, so we've got our group and Mike's gonna send a doodle.
Yep.
Oh, okay, Shirley.
Okay. Let me go back. Let me go back up to,
We're at the 3:15 mark, even though we're a little past that.
okay.
Updates on small group conversations.
Yeah, I think we've covered that, right? Updates on the small group conversations.
I think
with
you
the
were just
list.
gonna ask people if they had done this within their congregations.
Oh, that's right. Have anyone, one that's, on this call today, have you gotten with your congregation or your service group to have a conversation about, what are the issues? Back to, what do we want to tell officials?
Well, we haven't done it yet, but we have a plan in place to do it that Mike is going to help us with at Belmont Methodist. And I believe the date is the second Wednesday in September. Mike will visit our Wednesday night group, which is made up of a cross-section of our membership, young people, older folks, and he may bring Brian and another person with him to ask our congregation these questions. So, and then the following 4 Wednesday nights, we will take one of our 4-legged stool at Noah, and that'll be the program for that night, so that our people are more informed about what Noah does and what we have done through Noah, and hopefully will want to be more personally involved. That's the final 4 Wednesdays. The purpose of the first Wednesday is to prepare for this meeting and to know what issues are on our minds.
Okay. Anybody else?
No, my pastor has been under the weather, so I haven't specifically talked with her about it. So we're still trying to do a hybrid meeting. So I'm not figured out yet how's the best way to do it, because it seems like I'm the it right now.
If anybody wants more information, like on what we're talking about, you should either have gotten an email, or you may be getting an email in the next day or two about what we're talking about with community conversations. And I just put in the chat a link that kind of describes what we're talking about. It's not anything incredibly complex. It could just be getting 10 or 12 people together after church, at a Bible study, Sunday school class, or something separate. It doesn't have to be, but just whatever is easiest for you to get a few of your folks together and talk about what are the things that are hurting you, your family, and your congregation. We touched on them just a while ago for some people, but what are the things that are hurting you? And if you had a chance to ask the mayor a question or tell the mayor something, what would that be? So if there are others, that anybody else that wants
Carlene has her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Carlene.
Membership meeting in our little small groups, I did anyway, that we did a bulletin board at our church with the areas and some of the things that we had highlighted to work on, or goals for Noah, and had people put pins by the ones that they were the most concerned about, that affected their lives the most. And so we took that information and have developed I think it was 3 different categories of where the highest concerns were. And we're going to put big poster board kind of a thing up on stands in our social area and have people write things on that. So that is the way we're approaching it right now. Because we had good, good participation that way with the pins, and that was in the social area. And it just seems like a good place for people to have conversations about issues.
Did you take any pictures of that, Carlene? Did anybody take pictures of that?
I don't know. Lynn, do you remember? I don't think we did.
Susie did not mention it, so I think not.
What's the church, Carlene?
First Unitarian Universalist Church.
From Woodmont.
Uh-huh.
I think that's fabulous. I just think that's such a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
It's visual, it's right there, it's easy. I like that.
When we had the conversation, I brought up the barbecue, the fish fry, and how they had the different tents with people writing on the papers, and how involved everybody got in doing that. And that's kind of how we came up with the idea. So it was, just experiencing that fish fry and how involved people were in writing their responses.
So really, it's an activity that engages a lot of people at one time. It's not just sit down, be still, talk, but they still have this method of sharing what's important to them.
Okay, well.
Okay. Well, Mike, would you like to update us with the American Rescue Plan funding request?
Sure. Now, we're starting to run out of time. Do y'all, all of this was emailed to you. So let me share it if I can find the right document. There it is. Okay, can everybody see that? Since I've emailed this to you all, it was in the notice that went out about the meeting. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but this is American Rescue Plan funding. It's federal money that's coming, still related to the COVID crisis. And Nashville got a specific amount of it. And the mayor's office is suggesting some to go for housing, some to go for homelessness, and some for other things that they've already spent. But in terms of our interest, they're suggesting $8 million for housing opportunities for older adults. Some of that would actually be to help develop some multifamily rental housing for older adults. Some of it would be to support the creation of on-site additions. Like we've talked a lot about like a mother-in-law apartment or something in the backyard. It's like a separate kind of structure. The fancy name for that is a detached accessory dwelling unit, a DADU. But they would like to see some funding to support the creation of that. They're also interested in funding to support a home sharing program. So if seniors have additional space and they'd like to rent out a room or something to a graduate student, that there'd be a way that they could do that. And there'd be an internet platform that would help do that and also include background checks so that you know something about who you're getting. The other things, another thing, and Kay, you may want to chime in on some of this because I wasn't in this group, but there was a group that came up with ideas for pathways to equitable home ownership. They were going to develop $10 million for that, and especially for folks that were historically excluded from home ownership, Black and brown folks in Nashville.
Yeah, Benny's still with us. He can.
Okay, Benny was on that.
Yes, speak to that.
And so anyway, the two things I listed here are doing some shared equity models that would help increase some more affordable housing. And then funding.
What does that mean, Mike? Shared equity.
I can try to explain it, but Benny, are you still here?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Could you talk a little bit about what shared equity means?
Yeah, well, I know that we were advocating housing cooperatives for one. And this were limited equity cooperatives that would allow a limited appreciation of values. And the goal was to preserve affordability, to make it permanently affordable by perhaps indexing the appreciation of the homes to something like the AMI, so that the housing value will not increase more than any increases in the average median income for the area. But there's other types of share equity models. I think they've got some now with the housing fund that uses shared equity.
Yeah, so limited equity or shared equity is just a way. The concept is, or the goal of these type models is to prevent people from being priced out like they are today. And so under a model that a nonprofit here runs for Community Land Trust, the buyers that are buying the homes buy the brick and mortar, but the land stays in the land trust. And so it lowers their cost. And then if they get to the point to sell it, and when they sell it, equity is shared with the community land trust when they sell it, and there's a calculation that's used for economic factors during that period of time. It gets a little complex. Under the limited equity model, the co-op that Benny's talking about, there are members that are members of the co-op, and they own the property together.
Yeah.
And so it takes it out of the speculative real estate market, and they make decisions about this. And it sounds new and complex, but this has been used in Europe for a number of years. There are thousands of co-op units in New York City, but there are thousands of units both in the rental market and in the home ownership market. So what we have today with dramatic increases in housing costs, much of it from speculation and corporate investors, it removes it from that pendulum, and it takes away that pressure of people being swung around like a pendulum when housing costs go up.
Yeah.
Would be okay to let's keep going because we're running out of time. Then there's a section on innovation in housing that was supposed to be $7 million, and that would be funding creation of rental shared equity housing. And we've heard just about shared equity. Again, I'm not as familiar with this. I was on the senior housing one.
The key on that one is that it's directed to households of lower incomes, 50% of AMI and below. So incomes for a 4-person household of around $48,000. So it's directed where the need is the greatest.
Okay, thank you. And then there was additional funding for Envision Casey. Some of you all are familiar with Casey Homes that MDHA for the last several years has been slowly tearing down some of the old units and building back new ones. And it's going to be mixed income, still the same amount of affordable units, but there'll be some market rate units as well to help support the whole project. And this money would go toward that. So these are the main things that the American Rescue Plan funding would be going for that's related to housing.
The $30 million.
Yes. Okay, well.
Okay, any other questions before we go to our evaluation today? We've covered a lot.
do we have any other action items other than the small group of people getting together to work on the comments and questions for the mayor at the annual meeting?
I hope the part of the action items are going to be individually, that we're going to be talking to our own congregations or unions or groups to have these conversations and get us the information. We'd really like to get that by like September 19th if we can. So you've got a little bit of time. But some of these things may become things that we ask the mayor about. Some of them may just be things that we want to state that these are concerns of NOAA member groups.
Okay, so we want people to go have coffee or get together with people in your own network, capture what they say about what their concerns are and what their questions would be, and then send that information to Mike. Would that work?
Yeah, that'll work.
I have one question. Who are the representatives for Tuesday from the affordable housing?
Jerry.
Oh, okay.
Mike, are you sending out the minutes and all these new suggestions?
Yes, I will.
So that we can have those to think about prior to the small group.
All right.
Together.
All right, we're ready for an evaluation.
Ready.
Well, thank you, Shirley. We really believe that if it's worth doing, it's worth evaluating. So the first part of the evaluation is, what's the feeling that you're leaving with? And just put a word or two in the chat about what your feeling is. It could be, yes, I feel wonderfully empowered. Or it could be, you know, I'm just really confused. It could also be, I'm ready for supper. Okay, Juanita says hopeful. Do you want to say another word about that, Juanita?
I just hope that the concerns and the questions are answered and that are acted upon in a timely manner.
Amen.
Spoken like a true teacher.
Amen. You gonna correct Mike's spelling on this document?
All right, now.
No, I'm a math teacher.
All right, Benny Overton says encouraged. Benny, why are you encouraged? Let's quick go on through this. Why are you encouraged?
I'm encouraged by the organized effort you guys are presenting here.
All right. Well, we're encouraged that you're here with us. And Jerry Park says he's invigorated. All right. Why are you invigorated?
It's just, it's a good work. You know, it's worth doing, and it's worth putting effort into it. So,
all right. Well, the rest of you all cheated and didn't put a word in, so I'm not going to go around and call on all of you, but I probably should. The second part of the evaluation is just, how did we do? Was this agenda structured like it should have been? Did we do well with the agenda? Since Shirley and Kay and I put it together, Shirley and Kay, what do you think? How did we do?
I think we did very well. In pulling, and I really like seeing everybody engaging and contributing to the discussion.
Good. Okay, you got any words about how you think we did?
I think we made it through it, and at the same time that we're able to hear from a large number of people, which is always the goal. We want. And we're ahead of schedule.
Not actually, but okay.
Where our meeting ends at 4. That's what I was looking at.
Okay, I hear you. Well, one way I think about the evaluation is, what was a high point? What was a high point? Just somebody unmute and say, what was the high point? Grace says we covered the major points. That's good. Thank you, Grace. Was there a high point? Participation, Reverend Thompson? Participation by everybody? Good.
High point for me was hearing Paulette's suggestion about this community development plan. That was a new idea for me.
Okay. And Carlene says we kept bringing people back to the agenda, which was good. All right. Which raises the question, did we did we get off a little bit? Did we get stuck in any point?
We did, but like one of economic plan, economic development plan, I think that's a biggie.
Mhm.
That may have been a little off topic, but it's not affordable housing, but I think it's really important to affordable housing.
All right. Did we get stuck in terms of the agenda? Did we get stuck talking about something? And
A little bit.
a little bit,
Well, the question was, what's on your mind?
right?
And so people took that in a broad way and expressed concerns, which I think is
Okay.
fine. And when you think about it, it's all connected. So I didn't think it was a negative diversion.
Okay.
I'm glad that we heard those comments and concerns.
I am glad that we've heard from almost everybody. There were one or two people that didn't speak, but some of those put things in the chat, so that was good. The third thing in our evaluation is tension, because we really do want some tension that makes us move, makes us do something different after than we did before. Where was any tension in this?
Well, talk about prioritizing. I mean, anytime you have 20 things and you can only select a few, that's tension.
Okay. Talking about the priorities. Anything else?
I don't know. For me, in just planning the meeting, the politicians to invite to the meeting.
Figuring out which decision makers we want to invite.
Right.
There is some tension around that, because you want the right ones. You don't want to ask for a commitment from somebody and they say, well, that's not my area. I don't do that.
I guess my tension is always concerned, will they come? Will they accept? Or will they string you along and say, well, I can't do this, but I might do this and that.
I also have some tension just that we make sure that we're anchoring this in what our own members want. That's one of the other reasons for having these small conversations in your congregation or group, because we really want to make sure this is anchored in the real world of our members. The last thing in our evaluation is just political learning. And as you know, that doesn't mean who you're voting for. It just means where are we in our work in the city. And I think that where we are is we have to continually go back to the source, go back to the people who said that they were concerned about affordable housing. We have to continually go back to our own congregations and groups. It's like we work for a while and we get very specific and we learn things about tax increment financing and LIHTC funding and all this sort of stuff, but that's usually beyond where our folks are. So we have to go back to our folks and say, wait a minute, what is it that's really hurting you that you want to see change? So it's kind of a cycle, breathe in, breathe out. So that would be my political learning, is that it's time for us to breathe in with our congregations, so then we can breathe out October with the mayor or other decision makers and tell them what we need.
Okay. So with that, could we have someone take us out in prayer?
Yeah, I will do it. Let us pray. As we dismiss, God, we ask that you give us structure and strategy to do the work for the benefit of housing in our community. Continue to encourage us, empower us as we do this work. This we ask in your just name. Amen.
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 Amen, everybody.
Have a good afternoon.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
And Kristen, I'm glad you got the link. I did find out what was wrong. I checked our database and for some reason I did not have you coded to get the housing notices. I apologize. So Kristen had emailed me and said, when am I going to get a link about this meeting?
Thank you for taking care of it.
Well, thanks for
Making sure
being
that
here.
I got here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
And Mike, the notes that you were typing on in real time,
Yes.
would you just send those out?
I'm going to send those to everybody on here.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.